Hello, I'm Dr. Kia, a licensed psychologist and certified group psychotherapist. Welcome to my video series, Tell It Like It Is Tuesday, where I take a common esteem or relationship issue and tell it like it is. Relationships can be wonderful and fulfilling, but they can also be pretty difficult. Choosing to spend most of your time with another individual does not come without its drawbacks. As a result, conflict in any close or high contact relationship is normal. Sometimes couples get so caught up in their day-to-day life that instead of taking time to resolve the conflict, they choose to sweep it under the rug. Unfortunately, small, unaddressed conflicts can lead to greater conflicts in the future. If you're not careful, something that was once a minor annoyance can lead to something so great that you feel completely disconnected from your partner. The best strategy is to address conflicts when they arise. Here are 4 strategies to effectively address conflict with your partner. Focus on the underlying issue and not the symptom. Couples often get lost in the symptom of a larger problem that has gone unaddressed. For example, let's say that your partner decides to go out with friends after work for drinks and doesn't call you first and give you a heads up. You find yourself getting angrier and angrier as you watch the clock, expecting them to walk through the door at any moment. Let's add another layer and say that you've prepared dinner and now you've spent over an hour waiting for them to arrive home to eat. When they return home, you're angry and disappointed, which you attempt to clearly express by explaining how hurt you are that they didn't arrive home in time for dinner or consider calling you to let you know that they were going to be late. Considering the point that's being made here, the issue is that couples will often focus on the current circumstance and not the underlying issue. The circumstance in this case is that you were waiting for over an hour for your partner to come home for dinner and they didn't even call you to tell you that they were going to be late. The underlying issue in this case may be that you have a need for quality time that's not getting met. Focusing on the underlying issue paints a broader picture, thus creating a space for your partner to be less defensive and more aware of your needs. Consider doing what you would like your partner to do. This is a tip that I often express in couples counseling, and sometimes it can be met with resistance. Let's say that your primary love language is words of affirmation, thus creating a need for emotional intimacy from your partner. Unfortunately, your partner's primary love language is acts of service, and he or she can completely go without words of affirmation. You're several years into the relationship and have already expressed this need on multiple occasions. Your partner ebbs and flows in response to your complaints, sometimes meeting that need and sometimes not. One thing that you might consider in an effort to get your needs met is being the initiator of emotional intimacy in your relationship. This would mean that instead of waiting for your partner to perform a behavior that's not intuitive to them, you would engage in that behavior, thus creating the circumstance for your needs to get met. This is a strategy that has a lot of potentials to be successful with a few minor considerations. First, you may have to challenge the logic that asking for what you want in a relationship diminishes the value of what you receive. An example, if I ask my partner to do something, then it's not as meaningful when they do it. This is something that I hear all the time, and it's a really maladaptive approach to getting your needs met from an individual who's just a different person with different needs. Second, your partner would have to have a willingness to engage with you in a manner that may not feel intuitive to them. Using the previous example, if your partner's primary love language is acts of service and you want to talk about your feelings, it may create discomfort in them to do that with you. So for this strategy to work, they would have to be willing to step outside of their comfort zone. Check your expectations and be willing to compromise. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Unresolvable tension in relationships is often a direct result of someone having unrealistic expectations of their partner. The struggle here is that maybe what you're asking for really isn't too much. You want your partner to spend a certain amount of time with you and the family. You want him or her to say nice things to you. You just want them to clean up after themselves. If you've been asking your partner to perform a certain task or to do things in a certain way for several months or years even, and they still haven't done it, it's probably because that's not who they are. This isn't to suggest that change is impossible, because it is. It just takes a lot of intrinsic motivation. Instead of wishing, wanting, or planning for them to be different, try basing your current expectations on your partner's previous behaviors. If the result is that you're left without getting a primary need met, weigh your options. Is that need greater than the benefits of being in this relationship? If the answer is yes, you and your partner might be happier if you ended the relationship. Okay, so let's say that you're in a place where the benefits outweigh the drawbacks and you have realistic expectations for your partner. Let me explain what it means to truly compromise. When I'm working with a couple to establish a compromise, I would say that 95% of the time, neither party feels like they won. To truly compromise, you have to have full consideration of each person's needs, emotions, and experiences, and the compromise has to be formulated somewhere in the middle. The most frequent example that I observe in my couples practice is related to child rearing. One person wants it to be done in a certain way, which is completely inconsistent with the other person's values. The person with the most responsibility is usually the one who establishes the rules. In the example that I'm using now, child rearing. That person is also the one who struggles the most because they have the most responsibility. They want help, but they often want it in a certain way. Asking someone to compromise by doing things your way is doomed to failure. Instead, a true compromise would take into consideration both parties' values and interests. Remember to be patient and kind. A lot of unresolved conflict in relationships is just a product of two people having been really mean to each other. Our brains have evolved to be more reactive to negative stimuli than positive. Think about it. Hunter-gatherers had to be more aware of negative stimuli in order to survive. You see a snake, your brain freaks out. Something good happens, it feels good, but your brain doesn't react as strongly because it's not life or death. The result is the 5-to-1 magic ratio. This is a term coined by Dr. John Gottman, a leading researcher in marriage and couples therapy. He and Robert Levinson found that in stable relationships, for every one negative interaction, there had to be at least 5 positive interactions for balance and resolution. As a result, a little kindness goes a long way with healthy conflict resolution. In summary, conflict in long-term relationships is unavoidable. Don't ignore it. Instead, identify and express the underlying issue. Modify your behavior if necessary to get your needs met. Develop realistic expectations and be willing to compromise. Oh, and don't be mean. Thanks for watching. If you want to know the secrets to forming and maintaining healthy relationships and self-esteem, like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube page. If you want a quick behind-the-scenes look at real relationship counseling, don't forget to check back.